I would say, Ms. Dancho, is respectfully, your experience was not the experience of the many thousands of Ottawans who were laid to siege as a result
Minister,
of...
if I may just interrupt, I apologize, but just to be clear, you were saying the extraordinary high thresholds of these incredible, never before invoked emergency powers met the threshold that this was a national public safety security issue, and you connected it to the ongoings at Coutts. You're insinuating that that was happening in Ottawa. That's the main argument that you've made for the purpose of invoking this act. And yet I walked every single day for 2 weeks past these protests. So you can imagine the anxiety that that causes to parliamentarians, to Ottawa staff. We can go on, but yet there was like, I just don't understand how you could be saying on one hand, there's all these strong ties and this is a national emergency for public safety. And I walked every day by these protests. It just doesn't really add up at all.
Minister,
Dancho,
sorry, just 10 seconds, Minister.
Well, I would say first, it's not an insinuation. We got the advice from our law enforcement that we'd met the threshold. And secondly, Ms.
Can't believe you put us in danger in that way,
respectfully, Ms. Dancho,
like,
there were Ottawans who were subjected to intimidation, harassment, threats of rape. I mean, and those were all supported by.
So how could we have possibly been allowed to walk by that every day?
Sorry, the time has elapsed on this chunk. We now move to Mr.
Interrupting, but
from the illegal occupation. And
correct, but again, I'm
sorry, it's not just the insinuations is what I'm getting at, Ms. Dancho.
Right, but the blockades, of course, they had to come down. They were illegal. But again, we're talking about the argument that was made by your government that the threshold, the very high threshold of a national threat to security, to the public safety of Canadians, that threshold was met. And then when I pressed you, you said that there was allegations of rape, and some organizer said something about bullets. So again, I was walking by those folks. So if you believe that that's true, again, I'll just ask you, why would you let us parliamentarians and women parliamentarians walk?
Point of order coming from, I can't see a hand up.
Mr. Nur Mohammed.
Mr. Nur Mohammed, go ahead.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Understanding order 11. I mean, this is a repetitive questioning. We've already had this question asked. We have the minister for a limited amount of time. So I'm wondering if we might be able to move on to non-repetitive questions.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Dane, if I could just respond to that. Thanks.
Go ahead, Ms. Dancho.
Mr. Chair, I think that the Minister of Public Safety of Canada, who's formerly a Crown prosecutor, is able to handle my line of questioning just fine. He does not need the assistance of Liberal members from this committee. Am I correct, Mr. Mendicino?
I'm happy to take your questions, Ms. Dancho.
Thank you, Mr. Mendicino. If you'll allow me, Mr. Chair, I'll continue. I'm at 1 minute and 26 seconds. Again, so I'll just put it to you, because I am genuinely concerned about this. I mean, women on this panel right now walked by that protest every day, and you're saying that there was a serious threat to public safety. So again, can you confirm that there was a serious threat to our public safety walking by that Ottawa protest every day, and thereby met the threshold for invoking this act?
Well, Ms. Dancho, at the risk of generalizing, I would say for every one example of a safe passage, there are probably thousands who did not feel any public safety. And far from me simply insinuating that there was a lack of public safety and order, one only has to take a look at the extensive criminal enforcement operations that led to serious charges. And yes, Ms. Dancho, although I say it regretfully, there were individuals who were intimidated, harassed. There were expressions of hate. There were apartment buildings that were chained. There were efforts to set buildings on fire. The individuals who lived in Ottawa were terrorized. The individuals who were trying to go to work in Windsor and elsewhere in southwestern Ontario could not because of the illegal blockades. And all of these events tied together constituted a national emergency. And when we arrived at that, we gave law enforcement the tools that they need to get the job done. And I'm very happy to say, Ms. Dancho, they did it with the least amount of force in a very professional manner. And as a result, now the situation is far better.
Right, I appreciate that. But again, my line of questioning is that you've said that there was a serious threat to public safety, and therefore the threshold for invoking this act was met. And again, in all the things you just listed. So, but if that's the case, then why would you permit members of parliament, their staff, and journalists to walk by this protest that was so threatening and so dangerous and so violent, by your own words today? Why would you allow us to even get close to that protest if it was such a threat to public national safety and security? That really doesn't make sense to me why you would do that.
It's a fair question, Ms. Dancho. I would simply say we offered additional protection to MPs. And as for journalists, trust me, I reached out to some of them and urged them to be very careful, but they probably wouldn't have listened to me anyways, because they were concerned about reporting about the facts, Ms. Dancho. And it is regrettable that a number of individuals within your party, the Conservative Party, seem to want to gloss over the facts, but this is to our detriment collectively. And I would just hope that on sober reflection that you would see that as a result of the steps that we took, that we've restored public safety in order, because that was what we had to do.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mendicino, but in response, I would hope that you would have some serious, sober reflection that if the claims you're making are true, that if national security and public safety was in jeopardy, threats of rape in Ottawa, bullets, all these other things that you said, if that's the case, I hope that you have serious, sober reflection about the fact that you allowed members of parliament, journalists, and staff to walk amongst the protests for 3 weeks. I think that requires serious, sober reflection if that is in fact the case. Mr. Chair, I'll cede the rest of my time to Mr. Brock.
Most disturbing aspect, Mr. Mendicino, what I heard is this rape allegation, a very heinous, serious crime. We debated this particular issue for over 40 hours. Not once did the Prime Minister, did you or any other senior member of cabinet or any member of your backbench raise a rape allegation. So my question to you is very pointed. If that allegation did not result in a criminal charge, and it's not rape under the criminal charge, as you know, you're a lawyer, it's a allegation of sexual assault. If there is no criminal charge, will you undertake to provide this committee with proof of allegations?
Please have respect for the chair. The question has been put. Mr. Mendicino, you have 10 seconds to respond.
The absence of criminal charges doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, didn't happen in Ottawa, and doesn't happen every day, Mr. Brock. And I would think you would know that. Thank you.